The Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources is this morning visiting the controversial Achimota Forest Reserve following public outcry of its supposed sale to private developers. Government has since dismissed the allegations, insisting it is only ceding a portion of the reserve to the original landowners, the Owu family. We'll be taking you live there shortly for the latest, but before that, the sector minister has been reassuring that government is committed to protecting the reserve at all costs. He spoke to Evans Spencer on PM Express.
The lands were acquired with two acquisitions, the 1921 acquisition and the 1927 acquisition. The 1921 acquisition was the land acquired for purposes of constructing the Achimota School. The 1927 acquisition was the land which was acquired as an extension of the Achimota School. In 1930, the colonial government designated the 1927 acquisition as a forest reserve for purposes of plantation for fuel for the Achimota School, and which is what has become the Achimota Forest, the 1927 acquisition, which was converted in 1930 as a forest reserve. In the 1921 acquisition, compensation was paid. The 1927 acquisition, there is no evidence of payment of compensation. In addition to that, not all of the land was used as Achimota Forest, as we know. A lot of it has been encroached upon. For instance, Gimpa, as we know it today, is within the 1927 acquisition. The Forestry Commission headquarters is within the 1927 acquisition. The Earthquake Monitoring Center is within the 1927 acquisition. So is the Forestry Commission accommodation facilities in the 1927 acquisition. And private individuals have also been engaged in developments within the 1927 acquisition. So sometime in 2007, the Owu family petitioned the president of the time, President Gov't, on two grounds. The first ground being that compensation had not been paid for the 1927 acquisition. And the second ground is also that the land is being used, part of the land is being used for purposes which is at variance with the original purpose for which it was acquired. And as you know, the constitutional provision, specifically Article 20 of the Constitution, makes a pronouncement on that. And therefore, some of the land, the unused part of the land, be returned to them. The matter is traveled to President Mills, President Mahama, where even in President Mahama's time, three leases were executed in favor of the Owu family, and all the way through. And this government is giving effect to the arrangements which were made by amending the Cap 157, which is the Forest Act of 1927, to de-gazette the peripheral portions of the Achimota Forest, the part which is not being used as a forest reserve, for the Owu family.
So for clarity, are you giving the entire forest back to them? Because
no, we're not giving the entire forest back to them. We're giving the peripheral portions of the Achimota Forest to them. The Achimota Forest will remain intact. As a matter of fact, we are in the process of reforesting the Achimota Forest. We've been planting trees in the Achimota Forest. Money has been voted for the reforestation of the Achimota Forest. And we intend to even do more, and hopefully in the not too distant future, turn the Achimota Forest into a forest enclave in the likes of Hyde Park in London, Central Park in New York. So on the contrary, we are seeking to preserve the Achimota Forest. And both instruments, the EI 144 and EI 155, were all promulgated solely and specifically with provisions to protect the Achimota Forest. So on the contrary, the Achimota Forest is not being sold. It cannot be sold, and President Akufo-Addo will never sell the Achimota Forest.